There is a pasta dish from Sicily that has been feeding families for centuries, and most people outside of Italy have never heard of it. It is not made with expensive seafood or elaborate sauces. It uses cauliflower, anchovies, saffron, raisins, pine nuts, and toasted breadcrumbs. And somehow, impossibly, it is one of the most complex, deeply satisfying bowls of pasta you will ever taste in your life. Today on Flavor Vault, we are unlocking the full story behind pasta Vruoccoli Arriminati, Sicilian pasta with cauliflower, a dish that tells you everything about who Sicilians are, where they came from, and why their food stands alone in the entire world of Italian cooking. Sicily is not like the rest of Italy. Geographically, culturally, and gastronomically, it has always operated by its own rules. Sitting at the center of the Mediterranean, the island was conquered and colonized by Greeks, Romans, Arabs, Normans, Spanish, and French over the course of more than 2,000 years. Every single one of those civilizations left something behind in the soil, in the language, and most powerfully, on the plate. Pasta Vruoccoli Arriminati is a living archive of that history. The name itself is in Sicilian dialect, not standard Italian. Vruoccoli refers to what we might call cauliflower, though historically the term was used for both cauliflower and broccoli interchangeably across the island. Arriminati means stirred or tossed, describing the technique of continuously working the cauliflower into the pasta until it nearly melts into the sauce. This is not a dish where the vegetable sits on top as a garnish. It becomes the sauce itself. The Arab influence on this recipe is impossible to ignore and absolutely fascinating. When Arab traders and settlers occupied Sicily from around 827 to 1072 AD, they introduced saffron, raisins, pine nuts, and new spice traditions that permanently altered the island's culinary DNA. This combination of sweet and savory, fruit and spice alongside vegetables and protein, is called agrodolce in Italian, meaning sweet and sour. It appears throughout Sicilian cooking in ways that distinguish it sharply from mainland Italian cuisine. You will not find raisins and pine nuts folded into a cauliflower pasta anywhere in Tuscany or Lombardy. But in Palermo, it is simply the correct way to cook this dish. The Arab culinary legacy in Sicily is not a curiosity or a footnote. It is a foundational pillar of an entire regional food culture. The anchovies in this recipe serve a purpose that goes far beyond adding a fishy flavor. When anchovy fillets are gently melted into olive oil over low heat, they dissolve completely and transform into something called umami, that fifth taste, the deep savory richness that makes food taste more fully of itself. This technique appears across Italian cooking, but it is especially prominent in Sicilian recipes because the island has always had an extraordinary anchovy fishery. The waters around Sicily, particularly near Sciacca and the Strait of Messina, produce some of the finest anchovies in all of Europe. Canned Sicilian anchovies packed in salt or oil are genuinely world-class ingredients. When you use them in this dish, you are not making the pasta taste like fish. You are building an invisible backbone of depth and complexity that elevates everything else in the bowl. Saffron is the other truly irreplaceable element here. A small pinch of saffron bloomed in warm water and added to the cooking cauliflower turns the entire dish a warm golden yellow and contributes a subtle floral, almost honey-like bitterness that plays beautifully against the sweetness of the raisins. Saffron was cultivated in Sicily during the Arab period and continued to grow wild in parts of the island for centuries. It is expensive, certainly, but you need very little. A quarter teaspoon of good quality saffron threads bloomed in 3 tablespoons of warm water for 15 minutes will do everything you need it to do in this recipe. Now let us walk through how this dish is actually made. Because the technique is just as important as the ingredients. You begin by breaking down a medium head of cauliflower into small florets. Bring a large pot of very well salted water to a boil. Sicilian cooks traditionally parboil the cauliflower in the same water they will use to cook the pasta, which is brilliant for 2 reasons. First, it seasons the cauliflower directly. Second, the pasta water becomes enriched with starch and cauliflower flavor, making it an even more valuable tool for finishing the sauce. Cook the cauliflower florets for about 5 minutes, until they are just tender but still have some resistance. Remove them with a slotted spoon and set them aside. Keep that water boiling for your pasta. The pasta shape traditionally used in Palermo for this dish is bucatini, the thick hollow spaghetti that has just enough chew and surface area to hold the cauliflower sauce. Some cooks use spaghetti or persiatelli, which is essentially the same as bucatini. What you want to avoid is a short pasta shape with ridges, because this sauce is meant to coat long noodles and create a unified, almost creamy texture rather than filling little tubes. Drop your pasta into that cauliflower-infused water and cook it to about 2 minutes before al dente. You will finish it in the pan. While the pasta cooks, build your sauce. In a wide, deep skillet, warm a generous amount of good Sicilian or Southern Italian olive oil over medium-low heat. Add 4 to 6 anchovy fillets and stir them gently until they completely dissolve into the oil. Add 1 medium onion that you have sliced very thin. Cook the onion slowly, stirring often, for about 12 to 15 minutes, until it becomes deeply golden and sweet. This step cannot be rushed. The caramelized onion is the sweet foundation of the entire sauce. Add a tablespoon of tomato paste and stir it for 2 minutes to cook out its raw sharpness. Then add your saffron water, your raisins, and your pine nuts. Stir everything together and add the parboiled cauliflower. Using a wooden spoon or the back of a spatula, begin pressing and breaking the cauliflower pieces down into the sauce, stirring constantly. This is the Arriminati technique, the continuous stirring and mashing that gives the dish its name and its texture. You want some chunks to remain for texture, but you also want about half the cauliflower to have disintegrated into the sauce, creating a thick, golden, intensely flavored coating for the pasta. Transfer the nearly finished pasta directly from the water into the skillet. Add a few ladlefuls of the pasta cooking water and continue stirring vigorously over medium heat for those final 2 minutes. The starchy water emulsifies with the olive oil and cauliflower into something that genuinely resembles a creamy sauce without a drop of cream or butter. Taste it carefully. You may want a touch more salt, though the anchovies and the pasta water should have handled most of that. A small pinch of black pepper and optionally a pinch of red pepper flakes if you want a gentle heat. The toasted breadcrumbs come last, and they are not optional. In Sicily, toasted breadcrumbs are called modica adorata, and they are used throughout the island's cuisine as a garnish in the same way that cheese is used on the mainland. This tradition has practical roots. Bread was cheaper than Parmigiano Reggiano, and Sicilian peasant cooks made the most of what they had. To make modica adorata, toast coarse breadcrumbs, ideally made from stale rustic white bread, in a dry skillet with a little olive oil, stirring constantly until they turn a deep golden brown and smell nutty and slightly caramelized. Add a pinch of salt. Some cooks add a touch of sugar to lean into that agrodolce tradition. Scatter them generously over each bowl of pasta just before serving. They add a crunch that is genuinely transformative, the contrast between the silky, yielding pasta and sauce and those crispy, toasty breadcrumbs is one of the great textural combinations in all of Italian cooking. What makes pasta chi? Vruoccoli Arriminati so special from a culinary perspective is how completely it defies expectations. You look at the ingredient list and you think it will be strange or difficult to enjoy. Anchovies with raisins sounds like a dare. Saffron on a weeknight pasta sounds impractical.